Eleanor Hartwell's hands were still covered in blood from the birth she'd just saved when the door slammed open. A man stood there, rain pouring off his hat, holding a child who wasn't breathing right. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "They told me she's dying. Every doctor turned us away. You're the last one." Eleanor looked at the little girl's pale face and saw her own daughter, the one she'd buried 4 years ago. Her heart screamed to run, but her hands were already reaching out. If you want to witness what happens next, subscribe to our channel and follow this incredible journey to the end. Drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. The summer heat in Dusty Creek, Texas, was the kind that made even the horses mean. July 1879 had been brutal, and Eleanor Hartwell wiped sweat from her forehead as she finished tying off the cord. "Is he breathing?" Martha Cooper asked from the doorway. "He will be, Will." Eleanor turned the newborn over and gave his back 2 firm pats. The baby let out a wail that filled the small room. "Lord have mercy." Martha pressed her hand to her chest. "I thought we lost him." "Not today." Eleanor wrapped the infant and placed him in his mother's arms. "You did good, Sarah. He's strong." Sarah Wilkins, barely 19 and exhausted, looked up at Eleanor with tears streaming. "Everyone said I should have gone to Dr. Webb in town. Said a woman couldn't do this proper." Well, everyone was wrong. Eleanor managed a tired smile. "Your boy is perfect." Martha handed Eleanor a cloth to clean her hands. "That's the 3rd baby this month you've brought into this world. Folks are starting to talk. Let them talk. I mean good talk, child. You've got a gift." Eleanor didn't feel gifted. She felt hollow. Every baby she delivered reminded her of the one she'd lost. But she'd learned to push that down to focus on the work. "I'll come check on them tomorrow," Eleanor said, gathering her medical bag. "Keep her drinking water. This heat will drain her dry." She stepped onto the porch of the small farmhouse, and the night air hit her like a wall. Even at this hour, the heat hadn't broken. Lightning flickered on the horizon, promising rain that might not come. Martha followed her out. "You walking back to town alone? It's near midnight." "Done it before." "Doesn't mean you should." Martha lowered her voice. "That Dr. Webb been saying things about you, calling you a fraud. Says you're practicing medicine without proper training." Eleanor's jaw tightened. "I'm a midwife. Last I checked, that wasn't illegal." "It is if he convinces the town council otherwise." Martha touched her arm. "Be careful, Eleanor. That man's got powerful friends, and he doesn't like competition. I'm not his competition. I just help women who can't afford his prices." "That's exactly what makes you his competition." Eleanor nodded and started down the dirt road toward town. She'd been in Dusty Creek for 2 years now, long enough to build a reputation as the woman who'd help anyone anytime. Short enough that most folks still didn't trust her completely. A woman alone. A widow. Doing a man's work. Some nights the whispers followed her like shadows. She was halfway to town when the storm finally broke. Rain came down in sheets, turning the road to mud within minutes. Eleanor picked up her pace, her boots sinking with each step. That's when she heard the horse. It came fast, too fast for this weather. She stepped off the road just as a rider thundered past, then pulled up hard, the horse rearing in the rain. "You—" The man's voice cut through the storm. "Are you the midwife, Eleanor Hartwell?" Eleanor squinted through the rain. The rider was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a hat pulled low against the weather. Behind him, she could see a smaller figure, a child wrapped in a blanket held against his chest. "Who's asking?" "Name's Sam Thornton." He swung down from the horse, and Eleanor saw the desperation in his face. "I've been riding for 6 hours looking for you. They told me you were out at the Wilkins farm." "What's wrong?" Instead of answering, he pulled back the blanket, revealing a girl of about 7. Her face was pale as milk, her breathing shallow and wrong. "She collapsed this afternoon. Won't wake up proper. Keeps drifting in and out." His voice cracked. "Please. I've tried everyone. Dr. Webb in town said there's nothing he can do. Said she's too far gone. Eleanor's heart seized. The child's face, so small and still, reminded her of no. Don't think about that. Bring her inside, Eleanor heard herself say. She pointed toward a small building on the edge of town. My clinic. It's not much, but it's dry. Sam Thornton didn't hesitate. He gathered the child in his arms and followed Eleanor through the rain. Inside the clinic, Eleanor lit lamps with shaking hands. She cleared her examination table and gestured for Sam to lay the girl down. What's her name? Lily. He brushed wet hair from the child's forehead. She's my niece. Been raising her since she was 3. Her daddy, my brother, he was killed by outlaws. Her mama died giving birth to her. Eleanor's hands steadied as she began her examination. How long has she been sick? Couple months now. Started slow. Headaches. Tired all the time. Then she stopped eating proper. Sam's voice dropped. And she stopped talking. Eleanor looked up. She can't speak. She could before. Was the chattiest thing you ever heard. Then about 6 months ago she just stopped. Hasn't said a word since. After her father died. No, ma'am. That was 4 years ago. This started different, more recent. Sam took off his hat, revealing dark hair and a face weathered by sun and hard living. Dr. Webb said it was hysteria, said some children just go quiet for no reason. Eleanor checked Lily's pulse. Too fast. Her skin was clammy despite the heat. Her eyes, when Eleanor gently lifted the lids, were responsive but unfocused. Has she been taking any medicine? Dr. Webb gave me some tonics, said to give them to her 3 times a day. What kind of tonics? I don't know, ma'am. Just bottles with his name on them. Eleanor felt a cold suspicion forming in her gut. How long has she been taking them? About 6 months now. 6 months. The same time she stopped talking. Do you have any of the bottles with you? Sam reached into his saddlebag and produced a small brown bottle. This is the newest one. Picked it up last week. Eleanor held it up to the lamplight. The label read, Dr. Cornelius Webb's Restorative Tonic for Children's Ailments. She uncorked it and sniffed. Her blood ran cold. She recognized that smell, a particular bitterness underneath the sweetness. She'd smelled it once before in Boston when her husband had shown her samples of a compound that was being quietly banned by medical authorities. Mr. Thornton, she said carefully, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Anything. Did Lily's symptoms get better or worse after she started taking this medicine? Sam's face went pale as understanding dawned. Worse. Every time I thought she was improving, she'd take the tonic and she'd decline again. Yes, ma'am. Eleanor set the bottle down with deliberate control. Inside, she was screaming. I don't want you to give her any more of this medicine. What is it? What's wrong with it? I'm not certain yet, but I have suspicions. She looked at the little girl on her table, so still, so fragile. I need to run some tests. Can you stay tonight? I'll stay as long as it takes. Eleanor worked through the night. She examined Lily thoroughly, noting every symptom, every small detail. She diluted a drop of the tonic and tested it against other compounds she kept for comparison. By dawn, she was almost certain. The tonic contained mercury. Not enough to kill quickly, but enough to poison slowly, steadily, over months of regular doses. Sam had fallen asleep in the chair beside Lily's bed, his hand wrapped around his niece's small fingers. In sleep, the hard edges of his face softened. Eleanor could see the toll the past months had taken on him, the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders even at rest. She touched his shoulder gently. Mr. Thornton. He woke instantly the way men do when they've lived dangerous lives. What is she? She's stable, for now. Eleanor pulled a chair close to his. I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. Sam sat up straight, bracing himself. Tell me. I believe Lily has been poisoned. The word hung in the air between them. Poisoned, Sam repeated slowly. You mean someone's been... The tonic. It contains mercury. Small doses delivered regularly over time. Eleanor kept her voice steady, clinical. It would explain all her symptoms. The fatigue, the confusion, the loss of speech. Sam's face went through a transformation that Eleanor would never forget. Confusion. Denial. Then a rage so pure and cold it made her instinctively lean back. Webb, he said. You're telling me Dr. Webb has been poisoning my little girl. I'm telling you his medicine is poison. Whether he knew that or not. He knew. Sam stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. He's a doctor. He'd have to know. Mr. Thornton. Sam. He turned to face her, and she saw tears cutting tracks down his weathered face. Call me Sam, and tell me, can you save her? Eleanor looked at Lily, still sleeping, her breathing slightly stronger than the night before. I believe so. If we stop the poison and support her body's recovery, she should improve. The damage from mercury exposure can often be reversed if caught in time. How long? Weeks, maybe months. I won't lie to you, it will be slow. Sam crossed to Lily's bedside and knelt, pressing his forehead to the mattress beside her. His shoulders shook. I almost lost her. I took her to that man for help, and he was killing her. You didn't know. I should have. He looked up at Eleanor with red-rimmed eyes. Her daddy trusted me to take care of her. It was the last thing he asked before he died. Take care of my Lily, Sam. Promise me. And I've been letting a monster poison her. Eleanor knelt beside him. You're here now. You found me. That's what matters. Why would he do this? What kind of man poisons children? Eleanor had her suspicions, but she kept them private. Dr. Cornelius Webb had arrived in Dusty Creek about a year ago, setting up practice with impressive credentials from Philadelphia. He'd quickly become the town's preferred physician, especially among the wealthy ranchers and their families. But she'd heard whispers. Children who'd been under his care and never quite got better. Families who'd paid him fortunes for treatments that seemed to make things worse before they got better, if they got better at all. I don't know, she said. But I intend to find out. Sam wiped his face and stood. What do you need? Time. Clean water. And for Lily to stay here where I can monitor her recovery. I'll bring whatever you need. I've got a ranch about 3 hours' ride from here. Got money supplies. Mr. Thornton. Sam. Eleanor held up her hand. Before we go any further, you should know something about me. He waited. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even a proper nurse. My husband was a physician in Boston. I learned from him. After he died. She paused, pushing past the familiar pain. After he died, I came west. I've been helping people however I can, but I have no official credentials. No license. If Dr. Webb finds out, I've accused him of poisoning a patient, he could have me arrested. Sam studied her face for a long moment. Your husband. How did he die? Fever. Same fever that took our daughter. Eleanor's voice remained steady through long practice. 4 years ago. I'm sorry. So am I. She straightened her shoulders. But that's not the point. The point is going up against Dr. Webb is dangerous. For me and for you. He has friends in this town. Powerful friends. I've got friends too, Sam said quietly. And I've got a reputation. 10 years as a Texas Ranger before I retired. Men know my name. Men fear it. He met her eyes. Anyone who tries to harm you for helping my niece will answer to me. Eleanor should have told him no. Should have insisted on doing this quietly, carefully, without confrontation. Instead, she nodded. Then let's get to work. The next 3 days were the hardest of Eleanor's recent memory. Lily drifted in and out of consciousness, her small body fighting against the poison that had been building in her system for months. Eleanor stayed by her side, constantly monitoring her breathing, forcing small sips of water between her lips, talking to her even when she couldn't respond. Sam barely left the clinic. He brought food, water, blankets. He fetched herbs from Eleanor's list, riding hard to the nearest settlements when Dusty Creek's general store didn't have what she needed. He slept in the chair beside Lily's bed, waking at the slightest change in her breathing. On the second day, Martha Cooper arrived with hot soup and fresh bread. "Heard you've been busy," she said, eyeing Sam with obvious curiosity. "Folks in town are talking about the cowboy who's been storming around demanding supplies for the midwife." "Let them talk," Sam said. Martha set down the food and pulled Eleanor aside. "Is that Sam Thornton?" "The Sam Thornton?" "You know him." "Everyone knows him, child, or knows of him. He was the most feared ranger in Texas for near a decade. They say he brought in more outlaws than any man alive. Dead or alive, preferably dead." Martha lowered her voice. "They also say he quit after his brother was killed. Just walked away from everything. Became a hermit on that ranch of his." Eleanor looked at Sam, who was gently wiping Lily's forehead with a cool cloth. "He doesn't seem like a hermit to me." "That's because he loves that child more than his own life. She's all he has left." Martha squeezed Eleanor's arm. "Be careful with that one. Men like him, they feel things deep, and when they're hurting, they can be dangerous." "He wouldn't hurt me." "Not you, maybe. But someone's been hurting that child. And when Sam Thornton finds out who—" Martha shook her head. "I'd hate to be that person." On the third morning, Lily opened her eyes. "Sam!" Eleanor's voice was sharp with excitement. "Sam, wake up!" He was at the bedside in an instant. "Lily! Lily, sweetheart, can you hear me?" The little girl's eyes focused slowly on her uncle's face. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Still, she was awake. Truly awake for the first time in days. "Hey there, little one." Sam whispered, tears streaming freely down his face. "There you are. I've been waiting for you." Lily's hand moved weakly, reaching for his face. He caught it and pressed it to his cheek. "Don't try to talk yet," Eleanor said gently, moving to check Lily's vitals. "Your body is still healing, but you're doing so much better. You're so strong." Lily's eyes moved to Eleanor, studying her with the sharp curiosity of children. She didn't look afraid, just interested, taking in this stranger who had apparently become part of her world while she slept. "This is Miss Eleanor," Sam explained. "She's been helping you get better. She's a good person. The best." Eleanor felt her cheeks warm. "I'm just doing my job." But Lily kept watching her with those dark, serious eyes. And then slowly, deliberately, the little girl extended her hand toward Eleanor. Eleanor froze. It was such a simple gesture. A child reaching out for connection. But it hit her like a physical blow. The last hand that small that had reached for hers had been her daughter's. "Go on," Sam said softly, watching Eleanor's face. "She wants to meet you properly." Eleanor took a shaky breath and took Lily's hand in hers. It was cool and fragile, like holding a baby bird. "Hello, Lily," she managed. "It's nice to finally meet you while you're awake." Lily's fingers squeezed hers, weak but deliberate. "She likes you," Sam said, wonder in his voice. "She doesn't warm up to strangers, ever. Not since—" Since she watched her father die, Eleanor thought. Since the world taught her that people leave. "I'm not going anywhere," Eleanor told Lily, not knowing if she was lying. "Not until you're better." Over the next few days, Lily improved steadily. She couldn't speak, but she communicated in other ways, pointing, nodding, squeezing hands, and eventually writing on a small slate that Sam had bought from the general store. "Thank you," she wrote to Eleanor on the 5th day. "You're very welcome, sweetheart." Lily erased the slate and wrote again. Uncle Sam cried. Eleanor glanced at Sam, who suddenly became very interested in the window. Did he? Lots. Don't tell him I saw. Eleanor smiled. Your secret is safe with me. But Lily wasn't finished. She erased the slate again, wrote more slowly this time. You sad too. I see it. Eleanor's smile faltered. I'm just tired, that's all. Lily shook her head and wrote, lost someone. Like me. The breath left Eleanor's lungs. She looked at this child, this silent, observant, impossibly perceptive child, and felt the walls she'd built around her heart begin to crack. Yes, she whispered. I lost someone. A long time ago. Baby. How did she know? How could she possibly know? Yes, my daughter. She was about your age when she... Eleanor couldn't finish. Lily reached out and took Eleanor's hand, holding it with surprising strength. On the slate she wrote one more word. Sorry. And somehow that word from this child who couldn't even speak, who had her own mountains of grief and pain, meant more than 1,000 condolences from anyone else. Thank you, Lily. Eleanor squeezed back. Thank you. Sam had watched the exchange in silence. When Eleanor looked up, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. She hasn't connected with anyone like that, he said hoarsely. Not in years. Not since... She's a special girl. Yes. Sam cleared his throat. And so are you, Miss Eleanor. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that. Whatever happens next. The words hung between them like a promise or a warning, because they both knew that this quiet time of healing couldn't last forever. Somewhere in Dusty Creek, Dr. Cornelius Webb was still practicing medicine, still perhaps hurting other children, and soon, very soon, something would have to be done about that. The quiet didn't last. 3 days after Lily woke, Eleanor was changing the girls' bedding when the clinic door flew open. Dr. Cornelius Webb stood in the doorway, his tall frame blocking the summer light. Miss Hartwell? His voice was smooth as silk over broken glass. I've been hearing the most fascinating stories about you. Eleanor straightened slowly, positioning herself between Webb and Lily's bed. Dr. Webb, I don't recall inviting you. I don't need an invitation. He stepped inside, his polished boots clicking against the wooden floor. When I hear that someone is practicing medicine without a license and making accusations against a respected physician, I take it upon myself to investigate. Sam appeared from the back room where he'd been fetching water. His hand moved instinctively to his hip, though he wasn't wearing his gun. You need to leave, Sam said. Webb's smile didn't waver. Mr. Thornton, I heard you'd taken up residence here. How's your niece, still suffering from that unfortunate hysteria? She's not hysterical. She was poisoned. The word landed like a slap. Webb's smile flickered just for an instant. That's a very serious accusation. It's the truth. Is it? Webb turned to Eleanor. Miss Hartwell, I understand you've been filling this grieving man's head with dangerous ideas. Mercury poisoning. Was it? Based on what evidence? Your vast medical training. Eleanor felt her hands trembling and forced them still. Based on the symptoms. Based on the composition of your so-called tonic. You tested my medicine. I did. Webb laughed, but his eyes were cold. And what qualifications do you have to conduct such tests? You're a midwife. You catch babies. You have no business analyzing pharmaceutical compounds. I know mercury when I smell it. Do you? Webb stepped closer, and Eleanor held her ground. Because I know what happens to women who make false accusations against respected members of the community. They lose everything. Their homes, their reputations, their freedom. Sam moved forward. Are you threatening her? I'm simply explaining the facts, Mr. Thornton. Facts that Miss Hartwell seems to have overlooked in her enthusiasm to play doctor. Webb straightened his coat. I came here as a courtesy, to give you both a chance to reconsider this foolishness before it goes any further. Get out. Think carefully about what you're doing. The girl is sick. Sick children sometimes die. That's not murder, it's nature. And if you persist in these accusations—" Webb's voice dropped. "Well, I have friends on the town council. Friends who would be very interested to learn that an unlicensed woman has been stealing patients from a legitimate physician." I said, "Get out." Sam's voice was deadly quiet. Webb held up his hands in mock surrender. "I'm leaving. But remember what I said. Both of you." He paused at the door. "And Miss Hartwell, I'd be very careful about who you trust. Mr. Thornton has quite the violent history. Did he tell you about all the men he's killed? Did he mention what happened to his brother?" Sam's whole body went rigid. "That's what I thought." Webb tipped his hat. "Good day." The door closed behind him, and the silence that followed was suffocating. "Sam." Eleanor reached for his arm. "Sam, look at me." His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscles jumping. "I should have killed him." "That's exactly what he wants. He's trying to provoke you." "He mentioned my brother." Sam's voice cracked. "He knows about Danny." "What happened to your brother?" Sam pulled away, pacing the small room like a caged animal. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." He stopped his back to her. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Danny was a ranger, too. We were tracking a gang, the Kellerman brothers. Murderers. Thieves. The worst kind of men." He paused. "I got a tip about their hideout. Told Danny to wait for backup. He didn't listen. Rode in alone." "Sam?" "They killed him. Cut him down before he even drew his gun. By the time I got there—" His shoulders shook. "I found him in the dirt. Still alive barely. He lived long enough to make me promise. 'Take care of Lily,' he said. 'She's all that matters now.'" Eleanor moved closer. "That wasn't your fault. I should have been there. I should have gone with him instead of waiting for backup that never came." "You did what was right. He made his own choice." Sam turned to face her, and she saw tears cutting down his weathered cheeks. "I spent the next 6 months hunting the Kellermans. Killed every last one of them. And you know what? It didn't bring Danny back. Didn't make the guilt go away." He wiped his face roughly. "So when Webb threatens you when he talks about my violent history, he's right. I am violent. I've killed more men than I can count. And I would kill him too if it meant protecting Lily." "I know." Eleanor stepped forward and took his hands in hers. "But killing him won't save her. It'll just put you in prison and leave Lily alone." "Then what do? We find proof, real proof that he can't deny, and then we take it to someone who can't be bought." From the bed, a small sound made them both turn. Lily was sitting up your slate in her hands. She'd written 2 words I heard. Sam rushed to her side. "Lily, sweetheart, you shouldn't have heard all that." She erased the slate and wrote again. "Papa died brave." "Yes," Sam's voice broke. "Yes, he did. Not your fault." "Lily," she kept writing, "bad man scared of you. That's good." Despite everything, Sam laughed a wet, broken sound. "When did you get so smart? Always smart." She looked at Eleanor. "You smart too. Together we win." Eleanor felt something crack open in her chest. This child who had lost so much, who had been through so much, still believed in winning. Still believed in them. "Yes," Eleanor said firmly. "Together we win." The next morning, Martha Cooper arrived with news that turned Eleanor's blood to ice. "There's another one," Martha said, her voice low. "Another sick child. The Patterson boy, Tommy. 9 years old. Been taking Dr. Webb's tonic for 3 months now. His mama says he can barely walk anymore." Eleanor's hands tightened on the cup she was holding. "Where do they live?" "Farm out past Miller's Creek. About an hour's ride." "I need to see him." Sam, who had been listening from across the room, stood immediately. "I'll take you." "What about Lily?" "I'll stay with her," Martha said. "You two go. If there's another child suffering like she was—" They rode hard through the summer heat, arriving at the Patterson farm before noon. The house was small and weathered, with a tired-looking woman standing on the porch as they approached. "Mrs. Patterson." Eleanor dismounted quickly. "My name is Eleanor Hartwell. I'm a midwife from Dusty Creek. I heard your son is sick." Hope and suspicion warred in the woman's eyes. "Who told you?" "Martha Cooper. She thought I might be able to help." "We've already got a doctor. Dr. Webb comes out every week." Sam stepped forward. "Ma'am, my name is Sam Thornton. My niece was under Dr. Webb's care too. She almost died." Mrs. Patterson's face went pale. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying his medicine might be making your boy worse, not better." For a long moment, the woman just stared at them. Then slowly she stepped aside. "He's in the back bedroom. Can barely sit up anymore." Tommy Patterson was a shadow of what a 9-year-old should be. His eyes were dull, his skin had a grayish pallor, and his hands trembled constantly as he lay in bed. "Hey there, Tommy," Eleanor said softly, kneeling beside him. "I'm just going to check a few things, okay?" The boy nodded weakly. As Eleanor examined him, her heart sank. The symptoms were identical to Lily's, the same slow deterioration, the same signs of chronic poisoning. "Mrs. Patterson," Eleanor said carefully, "do you still have the medicine Dr. Webb prescribed?" "On the shelf in the kitchen. Why? May I see it?" The bottle was the same as the one Sam had brought for Lily. Same label. Same sweet bitter smell when Eleanor uncorked it. "How long has Tommy been taking this?" "3 months now, ever since he started getting headaches." "And when did the other symptoms start? The weakness, the trembling?" Mrs. Patterson's face crumpled. About 2 months ago. Dr. Webb said it was just part of the illness working its way out." Eleanor and Sam exchanged a look. "Mrs. Patterson," Eleanor said gently, "I need you to stop giving Tommy this medicine. Immediately." "But Dr. Webb said—" "I know what he said, but I believe this tonic is what's making Tommy sick. The same thing happened to Mr. Thornton's niece, and she's already improving now that she's stopped taking it." The woman looked between them, torn. "You're asking me to trust a stranger over a licensed doctor. I'm asking you to trust what you see with your own eyes." Eleanor took her hand. "Look at your son. Has he gotten better since he started the medicine? Or worse?" Tears spilled down Mrs. Patterson's cheeks. "Worse, so much worse. So much." "Then give me 1 week. 1 week without the tonic. If he doesn't improve, you can go back to Dr. Webb. But if he does—" Mrs. Patterson looked at her son, at his pale face and trembling hands. 1 week. They spent hours at the Patterson farm. Eleanor showed Mrs. Patterson how to care for Tommy during his recovery, what foods to give him, how much water he needed, what signs to watch for. On the ride back to Dusty Creek, Sam was quiet for a long time. "How many more do you think there are?" he finally asked. "I don't know, but I intend to find out." "Eleanor." Sam slowed his horse until they were riding side by side. "What Webb is doing, if this is as big as I think it is, he won't stop at threats. Men like him, they protect themselves at any cost." "I know." "You could walk away. Take Lily somewhere safe, and let me handle this." Eleanor looked at him sharply. "Is that what you want me to do?" "No." The word came out rough. "No, I want you right here beside me. But that's selfish. You've already risked so much." "So have you. I've got nothing to lose except Lily. You've got your whole life ahead of you." Eleanor guided her horse closer to his, until their knees almost touched. "Sam Thornton, let me tell you something. When I left Boston, I thought my life was over. I had lost everything, my husband, my daughter, my purpose. I came west to die, if I'm being honest. I didn't care what happened to me." Sam's expression tightened with concern. "But then I started helping people, delivering babies, treating wounds, saving lives. And somewhere along the way, I found a reason to keep going. She held his gaze. Lily is that reason now. And so are you. Eleanor, don't ask me to walk away, because I can't. I won't. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Sam reached across and took her hand. Then we do this together. Together. They rode the rest of the way in silence, but Sam never let go of her hand. When they returned to the clinic, Martha met them at the door with an expression that made Eleanor's stomach drop. What happened? Sheriff Hayes was here, looking for you. The sheriff. Why? Martha's face was grim. Dr. Webb filed a complaint. He's accusing you of practicing medicine without a license and of attempting to steal his patients through slander. Eleanor felt the ground shift beneath her feet. When? This afternoon. The sheriff said he'd be back tomorrow morning to take your statement. But Eleanor. Martha lowered her voice. He said if Webb pushes it, you could be arrested. Sam's hand went to his hip again, that old instinct. Over my dead body. That won't help anyone, Martha said sharply. What we need is proof, something concrete that even the sheriff can't ignore. We have proof. The tonic. That's your word against a licensed physician's. You need more. You need other victims to come forward. You need someone with medical credentials to back up your claims. Eleanor thought of Tommy Patterson, of Lily, of whatever other children might be out there suffering. How do I find them? I've been asking around, Martha said, quietly. There are rumors other families whose children got sick after seeing Dr. Webb, but they're scared. Scared of him, scared of being called liars. Give me names. Eleanor, if you go stirring up trouble right now, the sheriff might not wait until morning. Then I'll be quick. She turned to Sam. Stay with Lily. If anything happens, take her and run. I'm not leaving you. You're not leaving her. Eleanor gripped his arm. Promise me, Sam. No matter what happens to me, you'll keep her safe. Pain crossed his face. Don't talk like that. Promise me. A long pause. I promise. Eleanor rode out alone as the sun began to set. Martha had given her 3 names. 3 families who might have stories to tell. The first, the Hendersons, refused to speak with her. The father stood on the porch with a shotgun and told her to leave his property. The second, the Crawfords weren't home. A neighbor said they'd gone to visit family in Austin. But the third, the Mullaney's, invited her inside. Our daughter Margaret. Mrs. Mullaney said, her voice hollow. She died 6 months ago. She was only 11. Eleanor's heart clenched. I'm so sorry. Dr. Webb treated her for months, gave her his special tonic, said it would make her better. Mrs. Mullaney's hands shook as she spoke. But she just got weaker and weaker. And then one morning she didn't wake up. Did anyone question the treatment? Mr. Mullaney spoke up from his chair by the fire. We tried. We asked Webb why the medicine wasn't working. He said some children are just too sick to save, that God calls them home. Did you keep any of the medicine? The Mullaneys exchanged a look. Then Mrs. Mullaney rose and walked to a small cabinet. She returned with a familiar brown bottle. I couldn't throw it away, she whispered. I don't know why. Maybe I hoped someone would explain why my little girl had to die. Eleanor took the bottle with trembling hands. Mrs. Mullaney, I think I can explain, but I need to ask you something very difficult. What? Would you be willing to testify to tell the sheriff what you told me? Fear flickered in the woman's eyes. Dr. Webb has powerful friends. I know, but there may be other children right now, children still alive who are being poisoned by this same medicine. We can save them, but only if people like you are brave enough to speak up. Mr. Mullaney stood slowly. You think Webb killed our Margaret on purpose? I think his medicine did. Whether he knew what he was doing. Eleanor paused. I believe he did, but I can't prove it without help. The couple looked at each other for a long moment. Then Mr. Mullaney nodded. Margaret deserved better than what she got. If telling the truth can save other children, then we'll tell it. Eleanor rode back to Dusty Creek with the third bottle of tonic in her saddlebag and hope burning in her chest. 3 identical bottles. 3 sick children. One of them dead. It wasn't proof of intent, but it was a pattern, and patterns were hard to ignore. She was almost to the clinic when she saw the crowd. A dozen men stood in front of her building torches, casting harsh shadows in the darkness. At their center stood Dr. Webb, his face calm and satisfied. There she is, Webb called out. The woman who's been spreading lies about me. The woman who practices medicine illegally and tries to turn families against their physician. Eleanor's horse shied at the torchlight, but she held firm. I have proof, Webb. Proof of what you've been doing. Proof, Webb laughed. You have nothing but fantasies and desperation. Sheriff Hayes, I want this woman arrested. Sheriff Hayes stepped forward, his expression troubled. Miss Hartwell, I'm going to need you to come with me. On what charge? Practicing medicine without a license, slander, theft of patients. Those are lies. Maybe so. But until we sort this out, I need you in custody. Eleanor looked at the crowd, at their suspicious faces, at the fear and hatred that Webb had cultivated. She looked at the sheriff, a good man caught between doing right and doing easy. And then she looked past them all to the clinic door, where Sam Thornton now stood with Lily in his arms. Let them take you, Sam called out. His voice was steady, but she could see the tension in every line of his body. We'll sort this out proper. Sam, trust me. His eyes held hers across the crowd. Please. Eleanor dismounted slowly, her hands visible and empty. I'll come peacefully, Sheriff. But I want those bottles tested by someone qualified. Someone who isn't Dr. Webb. What bottles? In my saddlebag. Medicine that Dr. Webb prescribed to 3 different children. One of them is dead. The others are recovering only because they stopped taking it. A murmur ran through the crowd. Sheriff Hayes looked uncomfortable. We'll take them into evidence, he said finally. And I'll see about getting them tested. Thank you. As the sheriff led her away, Eleanor looked back one more time. Sam still stood in the doorway, Lily clinging to his neck. The little girl was watching Eleanor with those dark, serious eyes. And then Lily did something she hadn't done in years. She opened her mouth, and she screamed. Not a word, not yet, but a sound. A raw, desperate human sound that cut through the night and made everyone freeze. Lily! Sam's voice was shocked. Lily, did you just... But the scream had already died, leaving only silence and the echo of something impossible. A child who hadn't made a sound in years had just found her voice again, and she'd found it for Eleanor. The scream still echoed in Eleanor's ears as Sheriff Hayes led her toward the jailhouse. Behind her she could hear the commotion, Sam's voice, sharp with shock, calling Lily's name, the crowd murmuring in confusion, and underneath it all the memory of that raw, desperate sound from a child who hadn't spoken in years. Sheriff? Eleanor stopped walking. Please, let me go back, just for a moment. Can't do that, Miss Hartwell. That little girl hasn't made a sound in years. She needs... What she needs is for the adults in her life to sort this mess out proper. Hayes kept his grip on her arm firm, but not cruel. I'm sorry about all this, truly, but I've got to follow procedure. The jail cell was small and bare, a cot, a bucket, a barred window that let in the humid summer air. Eleanor sat on the cot and listened to the sounds of the town settling into uneasy quiet. She didn't sleep. At dawn, footsteps approached her cell, She expected Sheriff Hayes maybe come to question her. Instead, she found Sam Thornton standing on the other side of the bars, his face haggard and his eyes wild. "Sam!" She rushed to the bars. "Lily, is she—" "She's talking." Eleanor's heart stopped. "What?" "Not much, just a few words. But Eleanor, she's talking." Sam's voice cracked. "The first thing she said after that scream, she said your name. Over and over. Just Eleanor, Eleanor, Eleanor. Until Martha got her calmed down." Tears spilled down Eleanor's cheeks before she could stop them. "She said my name. And then she said help her. Clear as day." Sam gripped the bars between them. "That little girl who hasn't spoken since she watched her daddy die looked at me and said, 'Help her, Uncle Sam.' So that's what I'm going to do." "How?" "I sent word to Austin. Got a friend there, a real doctor trained at Harvard. Man named Thomas Whitfield. We served together in the Rangers before he went back to medicine. He owes me his life twice over." Sam's jaw tightened. "He'll come, and when he tests those bottles, Webb won't be able to hide behind his credentials anymore. That could take days, weeks." "I know." Sam reached through the bars and took her hand. "But you need to hold on. Can you do that?" Eleanor squeezed back. "For Lily, I can do anything." The morning crawled by. Sheriff Hayes brought her breakfast biscuits and coffee better than she'd expected. He lingered at her cell door, clearly uncomfortable. "Miss Hartwell, I want you to know I don't enjoy this." "Then let me out." "Can't do that. Not yet." He rubbed the back of his neck. "But I sent those bottles to Doc Morrison over in Cedar Falls. He's retired now, but he knows his medicine. If there's something wrong with that tonic, he'll find it." "How long?" "He said he'd have results in 3 days." 3 days. It felt like a lifetime. "Sheriff, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Do you believe me about Webb?" Hayes was quiet for a long moment. "I've known Cornelius Webb for about a year now. Always seemed like a decent enough fellow. But I've also noticed things. Children who don't seem to get better under his care. Families who pay him fortunes and end up with nothing but graves to show for it." He met her eyes. "I don't know what I believe yet, but I aim to find out the truth." It wasn't much, but it was something. That afternoon, Martha came to visit, sneaking through the back with the sheriff's reluctant permission. "How's Lily?" Eleanor asked immediately. "Better every hour. She's up and walking now, eating proper, and talking. Lord, that child is talking. Not a lot, mind you, but every word is a miracle." Martha's eyes were wet. "She keeps asking for you. Keeps saying, 'When is Eleanor coming home?' What did you tell her?" "I told her the truth. That you're helping the sheriff with something important and you'll be back soon." Martha leaned closer to the bars. "But Eleanor, there's something else. Something you need to know." "What?" "Webb's been busy while you've been in here. He's been visiting families all over the county. The ones with sick children, the ones who might have talked to you." Martha's voice dropped. "He's scaring them, Eleanor. Telling them that if they speak against him, he'll make sure their children never get proper medical care again." Eleanor's blood ran cold. "He's threatening them." "In his own slippery way. He doesn't say it direct, he's too smart for that. But the message is clear. The Mullaney's, the family who agreed to testify. Gone. Packed up and left town last night. Nobody knows where." Eleanor sank onto her cot, despair washing over her. Her only witnesses. Her only hope of building a case. Gone. There has to be something else. Someone else. Maybe there is. Martha's voice turned conspiratorial. "I've been doing some digging of my own. Turns out Webb wasn't always a doctor in Philadelphia. Before that, he worked at a hospital in New York. And before that, he had a practice in Baltimore. So why does a successful physician keep moving from city to city? Why doesn't he stay in one place and build a reputation?" Martha pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "I sent telegrams, asked questions. And I got answers. She passed the paper through the bars. Eleanor unfolded it with trembling hands. 3 hospitals, she read aloud. 3 investigations into patient deaths, all quietly closed when Webb resigned and moved away. She looked up at Martha. He's done this before. Many times from the look of it. Always children. Always the same pattern: gets hired, starts treating patients. Children start dying. Questions get asked, he disappears. Martha's face was grim. You're not fighting one bad man, Eleanor. You're fighting a monster who's been at this for years. Then why hasn't anyone stopped him? Because he's smart. Because he targets the poor and the vulnerable people who don't have the power to fight back. Because he always leaves before anyone can prove anything. Martha reached through the bars and gripped Eleanor's hand. But this time is different. This time, someone lived to tell the truth. Lily lived. Tommy Patterson is getting better, and you figured out what he was doing. A lot of good it does me from in here. Don't give up. Not now. Not when we're so close. But Martha's encouragement couldn't change the facts. Eleanor was locked in a cell. Her witnesses had fled, and Webb was out there free to continue his work while she rotted behind bars. That night she dreamed of her daughter, little Sarah, 3 years old, reaching for her mother with tiny hands. "Mama," she said. "Mama, why didn't you save me?" Eleanor woke with tears on her face and guilt like a stone in her chest. On the second day Sam came again. This time he wasn't alone. "Miss Hartwell?" A tall man with graying hair and kind eyes stood beside Sam. "I'm Thomas Whitfield. Sam sent for me." "You're the doctor from Austin." "I am. And I've been reviewing the evidence Sam collected." Dr. Whitfield's expression was grave. "Miss Hartwell, the samples you gathered, the tonic bottles, they contain lethal levels of mercury chloride. Not enough to kill quickly, but more than enough to cause progressive organ damage over time." Eleanor's heart pounded. "You're certain?" "Absolutely certain. I've run the tests 3 times. There's no possibility of error." Dr. Whitfield shook his head. "What's more, the concentration is too precise to be accidental. Someone with pharmaceutical knowledge deliberately formulated this compound to poison slowly, to mimic natural illness while actually causing death." "Webb." "It has to be. The bottles bear his name, his practice address." "Doctor." Whitfield looked at Sheriff Hayes, who had been listening silently. "Sheriff, you have evidence of systematic poisoning, possibly murder. This woman should be released immediately, and Dr. Webb should be arrested." Hayes rubbed his jaw. "That's a serious charge against a respected physician." "With respect, Sheriff, the evidence is irrefutable. And you'd testify to that in court. I would stake my reputation on it." Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled the keys from his belt. "Miss Hartwell, you're free to go." Eleanor stepped out of the cell on shaking legs. Sam caught her arm to steady her. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you both." "Don't thank us yet," Sam said grimly. "Webb is still out there, and when he hears about this, he's going to run. Then we need to move fast." They found Webb's office empty. His home, too. A neighbor said she'd seen him loading luggage onto a wagon that morning. "He's running," Sam growled. "Just like he always does." "Where would he go?" Eleanor asked. "Train station's the fastest way out of the territory," Hayes said. "But that's 2 hours' ride from here. Then we ride fast." Sam helped Eleanor onto his horse, swinging up behind her. Hayes mounted his own horse, and Dr. Whitfield borrowed one from the livery stable. Together, they rode hard toward the rail line. The summer heat was brutal, but Eleanor barely noticed. All she could think about was Webb escaping, disappearing into another city, starting over with new victims. She couldn't let that happen. Not again. Not ever again. They reached the station as the afternoon train was preparing to depart. Steam billowed from the engine. Passengers crowded the platform. "There," Sam pointed. "Blue coat, gray hat. That's him." Webb stood near the rear of the train, a carpet bag in his hand. He was scanning the crowd nervously, clearly expecting pursuit. When he saw them approaching, his face went white. "Dr. Cornelius Webb," Sheriff Hayes shouted. "Don't move." Webb moved. He dropped his bag and ran, shoving past passengers trying to reach the train before it pulled away. But Sam was faster. He leaped from his horse and tackled Webb to the ground. "Get off me!" Webb screamed. "This is assault. I'll have you arrested. You're the one getting arrested." Sam hauled him to his feet, his grip like iron. "For murder, for poisoning children, for everything you've done." "You have no proof. We have all the proof we need." Eleanor stepped forward, and Webb's eyes widened with recognition and fear. "3 bottles of your tonic, all containing lethal doses of mercury. A doctor from Austin who's willing to testify to the results, and a pattern of deaths that follows you from city to city." Webb's composure cracked. "You don't understand. You can't possibly understand." "Then explain it to me." "Those children were sick anyway. Most of them would have died regardless. I simply accelerated the process." Eleanor felt sick. "You killed them." "I provided a service. Do you know how much families pay for prolonged illness, for treatments that drag on for months, years? I offered them mercy, a clean ending. And in return they paid me well for my expertise." "You're insane." "I'm practical." Webb's voice rose frantic now. "The weak die. That's nature's law. I simply helped nature along while making a profit. Is that so wrong?" Sam's fist connected with Webb's jaw before anyone could stop him. The doctor crumpled. "That's for Lily," Sam said. "And for every other child you hurt." Sheriff Hayes stepped in before Sam could do more damage. "Enough. He'll face justice proper. A trial. A jury. A hanging if they find him guilty." "They'll find him guilty," Dr. Whitfield said quietly. "With the evidence we have, there's no other verdict possible." They brought Webb back to Dusty Creek in chains. Word had already spread, and half the town had gathered to watch the procession. Eleanor saw familiar faces in the crowd. Martha, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mrs. Patterson holding Tommy's hand. And there in front of the clinic, Sam's horse tied to the post, and a small figure waiting on the porch. Lily. The little girl broke away from the woman minding her and ran toward them. Eleanor barely had time to dismount before Lily threw herself into her arms. "Eleanor." The word came out clear and strong. "You came back." "I came back, sweetheart." Eleanor held her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling her small heart beating against her chest. "I'll always come back." Lily pulled away just enough to look at Webb, who was being dragged toward the jailhouse. "Is that the bad man?" "Yes." "The one who hurt me?" "Yes." Lily's small face hardened with an expression far too old for her years. "Good. I hope he stays in there forever." "He will, Lily." Sam crouched beside them, pulling both into his arms. "He'll never hurt anyone again." The trial happened 3 weeks later. It was the biggest event Dusty Creek had ever seen. People came from 3 counties to watch. Dr. Whitfield testified about the mercury in the tonics. Mrs. Patterson testified about Tommy's illness and recovery. The Hendersons, who had initially refused to speak with Eleanor, finally came forward with their own story. Their daughter had died 2 years ago under Webb's care. And then there was Margaret Mullaney. The family hadn't fled after all. They'd gone into hiding, terrified of Webb's retaliation. But when they heard he'd been arrested, they returned. Mr. Mullaney took the stand and described how his daughter had withered away under Webb's treatment. How she'd begged for the medicine to stop. How Webb had insisted she needed more, always more, until she was too weak to fight. "She died in my arms," Mr. Mullaney said, his voice breaking. "My little girl, 11 years old, and that man killed her for money." Webb tried to defend himself. He claimed the deaths were coincidental. He accused Eleanor of being a jealous competitor. He insisted the mercury levels were within acceptable limits, but the evidence was overwhelming. On the 5th day of the trial, the jury reached their verdict. Guilty, guilty of murder, guilty of assault, guilty of fraud, guilty on every count. The sentence was death by hanging. Eleanor sat in the courtroom, Lily on one side and Sam on the other, and listened to the judge pronounce the sentence. She waited to feel satisfaction. Closure. Victory. Instead, she felt empty. "It's over," Sam said quietly. "It's finally over." "Is it?" Eleanor looked at him. Webb is one man, but the system that let him operate for years, the hospitals that looked the other way, the officials who never investigated the families who were too scared to speak up, that's still there. "You can't fix everything." "No, but I can fix what's in front of me." She looked down at Lily, who had fallen asleep against her shoulder. "I can help the children who are still suffering. I can make sure this never happens here again." Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he took her hand. "You know, when I brought Lily to you that night, I thought I was asking for a miracle. I thought no one could save her." He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. "I was wrong. You didn't just save her. You saved me too." "Sam, I've been carrying guilt for 5 years. Guilt over Danny's death. Guilt over not protecting Lily better. Guilt over becoming the kind of man who solves everything with violence." His voice roughened. "You showed me there's another way. That healing is stronger than hurting. That love is stronger than hate. I didn't do anything special. You just changed everything." Sam turned to face her, fully taking both her hands in his. "Eleanor Hartwell, I know we haven't known each other long. I know there's 100 reasons why this is crazy, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Eleanor's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I love you. I'm saying I want you in my life, not as a guest, not as a doctor, but as family. I'm saying I want to wake up every morning knowing you're there and go to sleep every night with your hand in mine." "Sam, You don't have to answer now. I know you've got your own grief to work through, your own healing to do. But when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here, waiting, for as long as it takes." Eleanor looked at this man, this fierce, gentle, broken, beautiful man, and felt something she thought she'd never feel again. Hope. "You might not have to wait that long," she whispered. Sam's eyes widened. "What?" "I said yes, you stubborn cowboy." Tears were streaming down her face now, but she was smiling. "Yes, I love you too. Yes, I want to be family. Yes to all of it." Sam pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Between them, Lily stirred. "Are you hugging?" the little girl asked sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart." "Can I hug too?" Sam laughed a real laugh full of joy and pulled Lily into their embrace. "You can always hug too." They stayed like that for a long time. 3 broken people holding each other together. Outside the courtroom, the town was celebrating. Webb's conviction meant justice had been served. The system had worked. The nightmare was over. But for Eleanor, the real victory wasn't the trial or the verdict. It was this moment, this family, this second chance at happiness that she'd never expected to find. She thought of her daughter Sarah, of her husband James, of the life she'd lost and the grief she'd carried for so long. They would always be part of her. She would never stop loving them, never stop missing them. But she was finally ready to live again, to love again, to be a mother again, not as a replacement for what she'd lost, but as a new beginning. "Eleanor," Lily tugged at her sleeve. "Yes, sweetheart. Does this mean you're going to be my mama now?" Eleanor looked at Sam, who nodded with tears in his eyes. "Would you like that?" Lily's face broke into the widest smile Eleanor had ever seen. "I've been waiting so long for a mama. Papa used to tell me stories about her before he died. He said she was beautiful and kind, and she smelled like flowers. "Lily, you smell like flowers too, and you're kind, and beautiful." Lily reached up and touched Eleanor's face. "I think Papa would like you." Eleanor couldn't speak. The lump in her throat was too large. "I think he sent you to us," Lily continued. "From heaven. I think he knew Uncle Sam needed someone to love, and I needed a mama, and he found you and made the storm bring you to us." "That's a beautiful thought, sweetheart." "It's not just a thought, it's true." Lily's voice was certain. "Because good things happen to people who deserve them, and you deserve all the good things." For the first time in 4 years, Eleanor Hartwell believed that might be true. The hanging was scheduled for the first day of September. Eleanor didn't want to go. She'd seen enough of Cornelius Webb to last a lifetime. But Sam insisted. "You need to see it end," he said the night before. "You need to watch him pay for what he did. Otherwise you'll always wonder." Wonder what? If it was real, if justice was actually served. Sam took her hands in his. "I've seen men escape the gallows before. Bribes, technicalities, last-minute pardons from corrupt officials. Until that rope pulls tight, nothing is certain." So she went. The whole town gathered in the square at dawn. Eleanor stood between Sam and Martha with Lily safely back at the clinic under Dr. Whitfield's care. The little girl didn't need to see this. She'd already seen too much death in her young life. Webb was brought out in chains. He looked smaller, somehow diminished. The arrogance that had defined him was gone, replaced by naked terror. "Any last words?" the sheriff asked. Webb's eyes found Eleanor in the crowd. For a moment she thought she saw hatred there. Then something else. Something that might have been regret. "I was trying to help them," he said. His voice cracked. "The children. They were suffering. I was ending their suffering." "You were killing them for money," someone shouted from the crowd. "I was giving them mercy." Webb's voice rose to a scream. "Do you know what it's like to watch a child die slowly, to see them waste away over months, years? I gave them peace. I gave their families peace." The trapdoor opened. Eleanor turned away before the rope went taut. She didn't need to see it. She didn't want that image in her mind. Sam's arm went around her shoulders. "It's done." "Is it?" "Yes." He pulled her close. "It's finally done." They walked back to the clinic in silence. The crowd dispersed behind them, some celebrating, others somber. Death was never simple, even when it was deserved. Lily met them at the door. "Is the bad man gone?" "Yes, sweetheart." Eleanor knelt to her level. "He's gone forever." "Good." Lily nodded firmly. "Now we can be happy." If only it were that simple. The days after the hanging should have been peaceful. Webb was dead. Justice had been served. Eleanor had Sam and Lily, and a future she'd never expected. But something was wrong. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Webb's face, heard his words. "I was trying to help them." The lie was so monstrous, so twisted, that it haunted her. Sam noticed. Of course he noticed. "You're not eating," he said one evening 3 days after the hanging. "You're not sleeping. Talk to me, Eleanor." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You haven't been fine since the execution." Eleanor set down her fork. "He said he was helping them, right before he died. He actually believed it. He was a madman. Was he?" She looked up at Sam. "Or was he just the logical end of a system that values profit over people? How many doctors are out there right now giving patients medicines they know won't work, just to keep collecting fees? How many children are suffering because their families can't afford real treatment?" "You can't save everyone." "I know that. But I can't stop thinking about the ones I didn't save. The ones who died before I figured out what Webb was doing." Her voice broke. "Margaret Mullaney was 11 years old. She died in her father's arms. And I was here in the same town delivering babies while she was being poisoned." That's not your fault. Isn't it? Eleanor pushed back from the table. I'm a healer, Sam. It's my job to help people. And I failed. Sam stood and crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. Listen to me. You saved Lily. You saved Tommy Patterson. You stopped a monster who had been killing children for years. That's not failure. That's heroism. It doesn't feel heroic. It never does. Not when you're the one doing it. He pressed his forehead to hers. I spent 10 years as a ranger bringing criminals to justice. And every single time I thought about the ones who got away, the ones I couldn't catch, the victims I couldn't save. His voice roughened. But you can't let that destroy you. You have to hold on to the victories or the losses will eat you alive. How do you do it? How do you keep going? By focusing on what's in front of me, on the people I love, on the life I'm building. He pulled back to look at her. You're my life now, Eleanor. You and Lily. Whatever darkness is in your head, we'll fight it together. Eleanor felt tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't deserve you. That's funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. She laughed despite herself, a wet, broken sound. We're quite a pair. The best pair. Sam wiped her tears with his thumbs. Now come back to the table and eat something. Lily made biscuits and she'll be heartbroken if you don't try them. Lily made biscuits? With Martha's help. They're enthusiastic. Eleanor smiled. Her first real smile in days. Then I'd better eat them. The biscuits were terrible. Too much salt, not enough rising. But Eleanor ate 3 of them while Lily watched with anxious eyes. Are they good? The little girl asked. They're perfect. Lily beamed. I'm going to make them every day, so you'll always have something to eat when you're sad. Eleanor's heart cracked open. I'm not sad, sweetheart. Yes, you are. I can see it. Lily climbed into her lap. It's okay to be sad. Uncle Sam says feelings aren't wrong or right, they just are. And if you let them out, they get smaller. Your Uncle Sam is very wise. I know. Lily snuggled closer. He said the same thing to me when I couldn't talk. He said my feelings were too big, and that's why they got stuck. But now I have words again, so I can let them out. And how does that feel? Scary, but also good. Lily looked up at her. Maybe you need to let your feelings out too. Then they won't be so stuck. Out of the mouths of babes. That night, for the first time since Boston, Eleanor told someone the whole story. She told Sam about James, how they'd met at a medical lecture, how he'd seen her taking notes in the back row, and demanded to know why a woman was interested in medicine. How she'd told him women got sick just like men, and someone ought to know how to help them. How he'd laughed and offered to teach her everything he knew. She told him about Sarah, her perfect, beautiful daughter, born on a spring morning with a full head of dark hair and lungs that worked perfectly. How she'd grown into a curious, fearless toddler who wanted to touch everything, taste everything, know everything. And she told him about the fever. It came fast. Eleanor said, her voice barely above a whisper. One day Sarah was running through the house laughing. The next she couldn't get out of bed. James did everything, every treatment he knew, every medicine he could find. Nothing worked. Sam held her hand but didn't speak. He understood that she needed to get the words out. She died on a Tuesday. In my arms. She looked at me and said, Mama, I'm tired. And then she was gone. Eleanor's voice cracked. James never recovered. He threw himself into his work trying to find a cure for the fever that killed her. But there was no cure, and 6 months later, he caught it himself. Eleanor. I nursed him through it, watched him waste away the same way Sarah did. He died calling her name. She wiped her face. After that, I couldn't stay in Boston. Every corner held a memory. Every patient reminded me of what I'd lost. So I came west. I told myself I was looking for a fresh start. But really, I was running away. There's no shame in running, Sam said quietly. Sometimes you have to run before you can stand and fight. But I never stopped. Not until I met you. Eleanor looked at him. You and Lily, you gave me a reason to stay, a reason to fight again. Then stay. Fight. With us. Sam squeezed her hand. We're your family now. Whatever ghosts you're carrying, we'll carry them together. You mean that? I've never meant anything more. The wedding was set for October. Martha took charge of the planning with military efficiency. You just focus on getting that girl healthy and keeping Sam from doing something stupid, she told Eleanor. I'll handle everything else. True to her word, she did. Invitations went out. The church was reserved. A dress was ordered from a seamstress in Austin. Eleanor protested that it was too much fuss. Martha ignored her. You saved children's lives and brought a killer to justice, Martha said. This town owes you a proper wedding, and by God, they're going to give you one. As the weeks passed, Eleanor felt the darkness lifting. Not disappearing, she suspected it would never fully disappear, but becoming manageable. Something she could live with, rather than something that consumed her. Lily grew stronger every day. She talked constantly now, making up for years of silence with a flood of words. She asked questions about everything. Why was the sky blue? How did birds fly? What made biscuits rise? And Eleanor answered every single one. You're going to be a scientist someday, Eleanor told her one afternoon. What's a scientist? Someone who asks questions and finds answers. Lily considered this. Can girls be scientists? Girls can be anything they want to be. Then I want to be a doctor, like you. Eleanor's heart swelled. I'm not really a doctor, sweetheart. I never went to medical school. But you saved me. You saved Tommy. You're the best doctor I know. Well, Eleanor pulled Lily into a hug. Maybe someday you can go to medical school and become a real doctor. Then you can teach me everything you learn. Deal. Lily stuck out her hand, and they shook on it like business partners. Sam watched from the doorway, a smile on his weathered face. Am I interrupting something important? Very important. Lily ran to him and grabbed his hand. Eleanor says I can be a doctor when I grow up. A real one. Is that so? And I'm going to help children who are sick, like she helped me. Sam's eyes met Eleanor's over Lily's head. I think that's a wonderful idea. Later that evening, after Lily was asleep, Sam found Eleanor on the porch. She loves you, he said simply. I love her too. I know. Sam sat beside her. But it's more than that. You've given her something I never could. Hope, purpose, a dream for the future. You gave her safety, a home, love. Those are the basics. You gave her something to reach for. He took her hand. I used to worry about what would happen to her when I'm gone. Who would take care of her? Who would help her grow into the woman she's meant to be? Sam, you're not going anywhere. I'm a former ranger who made a lot of enemies. Nothing is guaranteed. He squeezed her fingers. But knowing you'll be there for her, that's the greatest gift you could give me. I'll always be there for her. Always. I know. Sam raised her hand to his lips. That's why I'm the luckiest man in Texas. The night before the wedding, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She stood at the window of the room Martha had given her, looking out at the sleeping town. In a few hours, she would walk down the aisle of Dusty Creek's little church. She would stand before God and everyone and promise to love Sam Thornton for the rest of her life. It should have felt terrifying. Instead, it felt inevitable. Like everything in her life, every tragedy, every triumph, every moment of despair and hope had been leading to this. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in. The door opened, and Lily slipped inside. She was wearing her nightgown, her hair loose around her shoulders. Couldn't sleep either, Eleanor asked. Lily shook her head. I keep thinking about tomorrow. Nervous? A little. Lily climbed onto the bed. What if I drop the flowers? Martha said I have to carry flowers. Then you pick them up and keep walking. What if I forget the words? What words? The ones I practiced. Lily's face was serious. I want to say something. During the ceremony, Uncle Sam said it was okay. Eleanor's heart caught. What do you want to say? Lily pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her nightgown pocket. I wrote it down. Martha helped me with the spelling. She smoothed the paper and began to read. Dear Eleanor, when you came to our house I couldn't talk. I was scared all the time. I thought I would be sick forever, and then I would die like my papa. Lily's voice trembled, but kept going. But you made me better. You made me brave. You taught me that it's okay to be scared as long as you don't give up. Eleanor's tears were falling freely now. Uncle Sam loves you. I love you too. I know you're not my real mama, but you feel like a mama to me. And I hope that's okay. Lily looked up from the paper. That's the end. Eleanor pulled her into her arms. Oh, sweetheart, that's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me. Really? Really. Eleanor held her tight. And I hope you know you feel like a daughter to me too. You're not replacing anyone. You're not filling a hole. You're something new and wonderful and entirely your own. Lily nestled against her. So we're really going to be a family. We already are. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other. Eventually, Lily's breathing slowed, and Eleanor realized she'd fallen asleep. She carried the girl back to her own room and tucked her into bed. Then she returned to the window and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow, she would marry the man she loved. She would become a mother again. She would start a new chapter in a life she'd thought was over. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing ever was. There would be struggles and setbacks and moments when the darkness threatened to overwhelm her. But she wouldn't face them alone. And that made all the difference. The church bells began to ring at noon. Eleanor stood at the back of the church, Martha fussing with her veil, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Stop fidgeting, Martha scolded. You look beautiful. I can't feel my legs. That's normal. I couldn't feel mine either 40 years ago when I married my Henry. Martha stepped back and smiled. He would have loved this, you know. Loved seeing two good people find each other. I wish I could have met him. You would have gotten along. He had a soft spot for stubborn women. Martha kissed her cheek. Now, go get married. The doors opened and Eleanor stepped into the church. Every pew was filled. Ranchers and farmers, shopkeepers and schoolchildren. The whole town had turned out to witness the wedding of the woman who had saved their children, and the man who had once protected their borders. But Eleanor only had eyes for one person. Sam stood at the altar, his best clothes pressed and his hair combed. He looked nervous, the fearsome Texas Ranger, who had faced down outlaws without flinching, nervous at his own wedding. When their eyes met, he smiled, and everything else faded away. Eleanor walked toward her future. The walk down the aisle felt like both an eternity and a heartbeat. Eleanor kept her eyes on Sam, using him as an anchor. Her legs trembled with each step. Her hands shook around the bouquet Martha had pressed into them. But she kept walking. Halfway down the aisle, she felt a small hand slip into hers. Lily had abandoned her position at the front and run to meet her. The congregation murmured, but Lily didn't care. She looked up at Eleanor with those serious dark eyes and squeezed her fingers. I couldn't wait, she whispered. I wanted to walk with you. Eleanor's tears started then. She couldn't stop them, and she didn't try. Then let's walk together, she said. They reached the altar hand in hand. Sam's eyes were wet too, though he was trying hard to hide it. The pastor cleared his throat. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Samuel James Thornton and Eleanor Grace Hartwell in holy matrimony. The words washed over Eleanor like water. She heard them, responded when she was supposed to, but her attention was split between the man in front of her and the child beside her. Her family, her future. Do you, Samuel, take Eleanor to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part?" Sam's voice was steady and strong. "I do." "And do you, Eleanor, take Samuel to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part?" Eleanor looked at Sam, at the lines around his eyes from years of hard living, at the silver in his hair from worry and grief, at the love shining in his gaze like a beacon. "I do." "The rings, please." Martha stepped forward with 2 simple gold bands. Sam took the smaller one and slid it onto Eleanor's finger. "With this ring I thee wed." His voice cracked on the last word. Eleanor took the other ring and slid it onto Sam's finger. "With this ring I thee wed." The pastor smiled. "By the power vested in me by the state of Texas and the Lord above, I now pronounce you man and wife." He looked at Sam. "You may kiss your bride." Sam cupped her face in his hands. "I love you, Eleanor Thornton." "I love you too." The kiss was gentle, sweet, a promise of everything to come. The congregation erupted in applause. But before anyone could offer congratulations, Lily tugged at Eleanor's skirt. "Can I say my thing now?" Eleanor looked at the pastor, who nodded. The young lady asked if she could say a few words. Lily stepped forward, clutching her crumpled paper. The church fell silent. "I wrote this down," Lily said, her voice small but clear, "because I wanted to get it right." She smoothed the paper and began to read. "Dear Eleanor, when you came to our house I couldn't talk. I was scared all the time. I thought I would be sick forever, and then I would die like my papa." A few women in the congregation dabbed at their eyes. "But you made me better. You made me brave. You taught me that it's okay to be scared as long as you don't give up." Eleanor reached for Sam's hand and held on tight. "Uncle Sam loves you. I love you too. I know you're not my real mama, but you feel like a mama to me, and I hope that's okay." "It's more than okay," Eleanor whispered, but Lily wasn't finished. She looked up from the paper. "There's one more thing. I didn't write it down because I only just thought of it." She took a deep breath. "My papa died because bad men hurt him. My first mama died when I was born. I thought that meant love was dangerous, that everyone I loved would go away." Sam made a choked sound. "But then you came. And you didn't go away, even when the bad doctor tried to hurt me, even when you got put in jail, even when everyone was scared." Lily's voice grew stronger. "You stayed. You fought for me, and that's when I knew." "Knew what, sweetheart?" Eleanor asked. "That love isn't dangerous. It's the only thing that saves us." The church was absolutely silent. Then from somewhere in the back, someone started clapping. The applause spread until the entire congregation was on their feet. Eleanor pulled Lily into her arms and held her tight. Sam wrapped them both in his embrace. For a long moment, the three of them just stood there, surrounded by the love of their community and each other. "I'm so proud of you," Eleanor whispered into Lily's hair. "I'm proud of you too," Lily whispered back. "You're the bravest person I know." The reception was held at Martha's place. Tables had been set up in the yard laden with food from every family in town. Music played. Children ran and laughed. The adults talked and drank and celebrated. Eleanor moved through it all in a daze of happiness. People congratulated her, hugged her, pressed her hand. She smiled until her face ached. But the moment that mattered most came later, when the sun was setting and most of the guests had gone home. Tommy Patterson approached her with his mother. The boy looked healthy now, his cheeks pink and his eyes bright. Nothing like the shadow she'd found in that farmhouse bed. "Miss Eleanor," he said shyly. "I mean, Mrs. Thornton." You can still call me Miss Eleanor Tommy. I wanted to say thank you. He shuffled his feet. Mama told me what you did, how you figured out what was making me sick, how you stopped the bad man. I just did what anyone would do. No. Mrs. Patterson spoke up, her voice thick with emotion. You did what no one else could do, or would do. She pulled Eleanor into a fierce hug. You saved my son. I'll never be able to repay that. Seeing him healthy is payment enough. Tommy tugged at his mother's sleeve. Can I show her? Mrs. Patterson smiled. Go ahead. Tommy reached into his pocket and pulled out a small carved horse. The workmanship was rough but recognizable. I made this for you, he said. Pa taught me to whittle before he passed. I hadn't done it in a long time because my hands shook too much. But now they're steady again. He held out the horse. So I wanted you to have the first thing I made. Eleanor took the little horse with trembling hands. Tommy, this is beautiful. It's supposed to be your horse, the one you rode to our farm on. He grinned. I'm going to make more, maybe sell them at the general store. Save up for medical school. Medical school. Lily told me about it. She said you told her girls can be doctors. I figure boys can too. He stood up straighter. I want to help people like you helped me. Eleanor looked at this boy, this child who had been weeks from death and was now talking about becoming a doctor, and felt something shift in her chest. This was why she'd survived. This was why she'd come west, why she'd kept going when everything in her screamed to give up. Not for herself, for children like Tommy and Lily, for the lives she could save and the futures she could protect. I think you'll make a wonderful doctor, Tommy. You think so? I know so. Later that night, after the last guest had left and Lily had been put to bed, Sam and Eleanor sat together on the porch of their new home. Sam's ranch house, now her ranch house too. Their ranch house. Someday, Sam said quietly. The best day. Better than you expected. Better than I dreamed. Eleanor leaned her head against his shoulder. When I came to Texas, I never imagined I'd find this. A husband, a daughter, a home. And now I can't imagine being anywhere else. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the night. Crickets singing, horses moving in the corral, the distant call of a coyote. I've been thinking, Sam said finally. About what? About the clinic, about what you want to do now that we're married. Eleanor had been thinking about it too. I want to keep helping people, but I'm not sure how to do that from out here. What if you didn't have to choose? What do you mean? Sam turned to face her. Dr. Whitfield came to see me yesterday. He wants to retire. Says he's too old to be riding all over the territory treating patients. That's a shame. He's a good doctor. He wants to train someone to take over his practice. Sam paused. He wants to train you. Eleanor's heart stopped. What? He says you have more natural ability than half the physicians he trained at Harvard. Says with a year of proper instruction, you could pass the medical licensing exam. Sam, I'm a midwife, a self-taught midwife. The medical board would never... Whitfield thinks they would, especially after what you did here. The case against Webb proved you know more about medicine than most licensed doctors. Sam took her hands. He's offering to teach you, to sponsor your application, to help you become a real doctor. Eleanor couldn't breathe. A real doctor. You could open your own practice, right here in Dusty Creek, help the families who can't afford to travel to Austin or San Antonio. Sam smiled. You wouldn't have to choose between helping people and being with us. You could do both. But what about the ranch? What about Lily? The ranch runs itself most of the year, and Lily would love having you close. Sam cupped her face. Eleanor, this is your dream. The one you gave up when you lost your husband. I'm not going to let you give it up again. Tears spilled down Eleanor's cheeks. You'd really support this? I'd support anything that makes you happy. He kissed her forehead. Besides, having a doctor for a wife means free medical care. That's just practical. She laughed despite herself. Always the practical one. That's me. The next morning, Eleanor rode out to Dr. Whitfield's place. He was waiting for her on the porch, a cup of coffee in his hand, and a stack of medical textbooks on the table beside him. "Didn't take you long?" he observed. "Sam told me last night." "And?" Eleanor dismounted and walked up to the porch. "I have questions." "I expected nothing less." Whitfield gestured to a chair. "Sit. Ask." "Why me? There must be dozens of people more qualified." "More credentialed, maybe. Not more qualified." Whitfield set down his coffee. "Mrs. Thornton, I've been practicing medicine for 40 years. I've trained surgeons, treated governors, consulted on cases that made medical history. And in all that time, I've never seen anyone with your combination of skills." "What skills?" "Observation, instinct, empathy." He ticked them off on his fingers. "You looked at a child and saw something every other doctor missed. You trusted your gut when all the evidence said you were wrong, and you cared enough to fight for a patient who wasn't even yours. That's just basic humanity." "No, Mrs. Thornton, that's rare. Rarer than you know." Whitfield leaned forward. "I can teach anyone to read symptoms and prescribe treatments. I can't teach someone to care. You already have that. You've always had it. And you really think the medical board will accept me?" "I think after the Webb case, they'd be fools not to." He smiled slightly. "Besides, I have some influence. I trained half the current board. They owe me favors." Eleanor looked at the textbooks, at the medical instruments lined up neatly on a shelf, at the diploma hanging on the wall. "When do we start?" The year that followed was the hardest of Eleanor's life. Harder than losing her family. Harder than coming west alone. Harder than anything she'd faced before. Whitfield was a demanding teacher. He expected perfection and accepted nothing less. He drilled her on anatomy, on pharmacology, on surgical techniques. He made her read textbooks until her eyes blurred and practice procedures until her hands cramped. But he also believed in her. When she doubted herself, he pushed harder. When she wanted to quit, he reminded her why she'd started. When she finally passed the medical licensing exam, becoming one of only a handful of female physicians in the entire state of Texas, he was the first one to shake her hand. "Congratulations, Dr. Thornton. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. It just would have taken longer." Whitfield smiled. "Now go home to your family. You've earned a celebration." The celebration lasted 3 days. Martha organized the whole thing, recruiting half the town to help. There was food and music and dancing. Children ran through the streets waving banners that read, "Congratulations, Dr. Eleanor." Tommy Patterson presented her with another carved figure, this time a woman holding a medical bag. "For your desk," he said. "So you remember where you started." "I'll treasure it always." Lily refused to leave her side for the entire celebration. She wore a new dress that Eleanor had made for her and told everyone who would listen that her mama was a real doctor, now the best doctor in the whole world. And Sam watched it all with quiet pride. "You did it," he said, pulling her into his arms when they finally had a moment alone. "We did it," she corrected. "I couldn't have gotten through that year without you." "Sure you could have. You're the strongest person I know." "Maybe. But I don't want to be strong alone anymore." She looked up at him. "I want to be strong with you. With our family." Sam kissed her softly. "You've got us. Forever." The years passed. Eleanor opened her practice in Dusty Creek, treating everyone who came to her door, regardless of their ability to pay. She delivered babies and set broken bones and cured fevers. She trained other women in basic medical care, giving them the skills to help their own communities. Sam continued to run the ranch, though he spent more time helping Eleanor than tending cattle. He drove her to distant homesteads when patients couldn't come to her. He sat with worried families while she worked. He held her when she lost patience and celebrated with her when she saved them. And Lily grew. She grew from a silent, frightened child into a confident, brilliant young woman. She devoured every medical textbook Eleanor brought home. She assisted with simple procedures from the age of 12. She asked questions that stumped even experienced physicians. On her 18th birthday, Lily announced that she'd been accepted to the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania. "It's the best program in the country for female physicians," she said, her eyes shining. "And they gave me a scholarship. A full scholarship." Eleanor wept with pride. Sam nearly crushed her in a hug. "I knew it," he said gruffly. "Knew from the day you started talking again that you were destined for great things." "I learned from the best." Lily looked at Eleanor. "Both of you." The night before Lily left for Philadelphia, Eleanor found her standing at the window of her childhood bedroom. "Nervous?" Eleanor asked. "Terrified." Lily turned to face her. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail?" "Then you get up and try again. That's what Thorntons do." Lily smiled at that. "Thorntons. I like the sound of that." "You should. It's your name." "It wasn't always." Lily's voice grew serious. "Do you ever think about that? About how different things could have been?" "Sometimes." Eleanor sat on the edge of the bed. "I think about the night Sam brought you to my clinic, how close we came to losing you, how different all our lives would be if I hadn't figured out what was wrong." "I would have died." "Yes. And you and Uncle Sam would never have—" "I don't know. Maybe, maybe not." Eleanor reached for her hand. "But that's not what happened. What happened is you survived. You grew. You became this amazing person who's going to go off and become a doctor and save lives. Because of you. Because of you. I just gave you the chance. You did the rest." Lily squeezed her hand. "Can I tell you something? Always. When I was little after Papa died, I used to pray for a mama. Every night I'd close my eyes and ask God to send someone who would love me. Someone who would make me feel safe. Lily. And then you came. In the middle of a storm. When I was dying." Lily's voice trembled. "I know you don't believe in signs or miracles, but I do. I believe God heard my prayers and sent you to us." Eleanor pulled her into a hug. "Maybe he did, or maybe we just found each other at exactly the right time. Does it matter which—" "No." Eleanor held her tight. "It doesn't matter at all." The next morning, they all rode to the train station together. Sam helped load Lily's trunk while Eleanor fussed over last-minute instructions. "Write every week. Eat properly. Don't study so hard you forget to sleep." "Yes, Mama." "And if anyone gives you trouble about being a woman in medicine, you remind them that your mother is Dr. Eleanor Thornton, and she'll come up there and set them straight." Lily laughed. "I'll tell them." The train whistle blew. Time to go. Lily hugged Sam first. "Take care of her while I'm gone." "I will. You have my word." Then she turned to Eleanor. For a moment, neither of them could speak. "Thank you," Lily finally whispered. "For everything. For saving my life. For being my mama. For showing me that anything is possible." "Thank you for letting me love you," Eleanor whispered back. "For giving me a second chance at being a mother." "That's what family is, isn't it?" Lily pulled back and smiled through her tears. "Second chances." "Yes." Eleanor cupped her face. "That's exactly what family is." The train pulled away, taking Lily toward her future. Eleanor and Sam stood on the platform watching until it disappeared around the bend. "She's going to be amazing," Sam said quietly. "She already is." They walked back to the horses in silence. But before Eleanor could mount, Sam stopped her. "I need to tell you something." "What?" 20 years ago, I was a different man, hard, angry, consumed by guilt over my brother's death. Sam's voice was rough. I thought I was beyond saving, beyond hope, beyond love. Sam. Then a storm brought a dying child to your door, and you saved her. And in saving her, you saved me too. He took her face in his hands. I never told you this, but that first night when I brought Lily to your clinic, I was ready to die. If she'd died, I would have followed her. I had nothing left to live for. You never said. I was ashamed of how close I came to giving up. Sam's eyes were wet. But you gave me a reason to keep fighting. You gave me a family, a purpose, a life worth living. Eleanor reached up and covered his hands with hers. We saved each other. I suppose we did. Sam smiled. And now we've raised a daughter who's going to save countless others. The best legacy we could leave. The only legacy that matters. They rode home together as the sun began to set. The ranch spread out before them, beautiful and peaceful. A home built on love and second chances. That night, Eleanor stood at the window of their bedroom, looking out at the land that had become hers. The land where she'd found healing after unimaginable loss. The land where she'd built a new family from the ashes of the old. Sam came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? About how strange life is. How you can lose everything and then find something even more beautiful. Eleanor leaned back against him. About how I came to Texas to die and ended up learning how to live. Any regrets? Not one. She turned in his arms. You? Only that I didn't find you sooner. We found each other exactly when we were supposed to. You really believe that? Eleanor thought about her daughter Sarah, who had taught her how to love. About her husband James, who had taught her how to heal. About the grief that had brought her west, and the love that had kept her there. I believe that nothing is wasted, she said finally. Not the pain, not the loss, not the years of wandering. She touched Sam's face. Every step brought me here, to you, to Lily, to this life. Then it was worth it. Every single moment. Sam kissed her, then soft and slow and full of promise. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead, the same stars that had witnessed their first meeting, their first kiss, their wedding. The same stars that would one day shine down on Lily as she delivered her first baby, saved her first patient, built her own legacy of healing. The story that had begun with a dying child and a desperate prayer had grown into something neither of them could have imagined. A love that crossed boundaries. A family forged through trial. A legacy of healing that would echo through generations. And in the quiet of that Texas night, Eleanor Thornton finally understood what she'd been searching for all along. Not an escape from grief. Not a way to forget the past, but a way to transform it. To take all that pain and loss and use it to build something beautiful. Family wasn't about blood. It was about choice. Home wasn't a place. It was a feeling. And love, real love, the kind that survived storms and sickness and separation, wasn't a gift you were given. It was a gift you gave every single day for the rest of your life. And that Eleanor knew was the greatest miracle of all.